Hello, all. Today on Theoretical Nonsense, we're going to be discussing pizza history, elevators, Epsilon Eridani, and Wolverine biology. Stay tuned. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of The Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Wonderful. And I am ready to talk the boyfriend complexity.
Yeah.
What'd you
Thoughts
think of
on
it?
the episode? Did you like it?
I liked parts of it. I really liked the Howard and Raj and Bernadette stuff. The Leonard stuff was the first time you watch it, you really like it, but then the second time, I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought he was a bit of an asshole. Leonard.
He was a little bit, and I kind of went back and forth on this. I'm like, he's being kind of an asshole about this, but at the same time, he's had his heart broken, and he's being forced into a situation without like any.
Yeah, he was kind of thrown in, but he could have like just said, "Hi, baby. All right, I got to go work now." But instead, he decided to like lean into it like a bit of a scumbag.
Although what sealed the deal like deal with me for like being I'm okay with it is technically, and not too much of a spoiler, but there's a part where he's like, "What would you like me to do? Do you want to go over and tell him we're broken up?" And I'm like, that felt sincere. Like he really wanted to help out, but he was playing a little too much into it, being a little bit of a jerk. But at the
Oh,
same
it's so
time,
funny. I actually interpreted that completely differently. I
really,
took that as like he had some attitude, I thought. Like, what am I supposed to do and everything? Should we just go like really? You're gonna escalate it and just tell the truth and everything like that? It's like you could there's an easy solution. You just back the fuck off. Or you don't shove your tongue down my throat every time you see my dad. Which is even weirder that he wants to do that in front of like that's so awkward. To do that
although
in front
she
of like
started it, she started it without his consent. Just like went right in. He's like, "What
Okay.
the?"
I guess yes. You are correct.
I don't know. I can't say for certain. I wouldn't behave like that, and I think you're right that he was kind of douchey about it, but I can't be too mad at him about. I give him a little leeway, a little grace.
Yes. I think the saving grace for me is like, okay, they did date for like a long time and everything like that, so it's not that bad.
hmm
But I really like the Howard and Raj stuff. And
Yeah,
Bernadette.
and I
Bernadette's
like this
always a
one.
shiny gem.
They bring up a lot of racist stuff in here, but they pointed out they're self-aware of it. And they make fun of being racist too, and then they make fun of Howard for being racist. So like it worked for me. Like at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but then like they start kind of making fun of the process of Howard being that way. So
I do think it's a testament for the friendship and how close they are that they can say stuff like that and they're really
yeah,
and they know that there isn't ill will because I feel like I was that way with a lot of people
Mhm.
too just because it was like you know what I know deep down you're not racist so like I'll laugh at it and everything and I'll get you back at some point and it's
yeah,
all good.
yeah. I'm gonna get you back, and Raj does. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
All right.
A little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. Don't forget to email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify, which I haven't checked, but I'm guessing we didn't get any new
I
reviews.
haven't seen anything. Sometimes my thing doesn't update, but I've been looking every couple days and I haven't seen anything.
Okay,
So
I look
yeah.
like once a week, if that. So send us a review and it'll make our day. It'll
It
make our
will.
year.
Here.
It'll make 2025 a little bit better.
And it's not going great so far, so we need it. We need your happiness.
Yes. Won't get into that though. Do have a couple major updates. Not sure if we want to share all of them now, but the first update I wanted to share with Ryan, I started Deadwood.
Oh shit!
I
So
tr- I tried to get Christina into it, but the moment I told her that it was about cowboys, she was like, "Nope,
Yeah.
not happening." So I was like, "All right, I'll watch it on my own." Watched the first two episodes, and fuck, there's a lot of familiar faces. So many familiar faces. It's like, good lord.
Somebody who
And in
turns
this
up in this
episode,
episode. This
yes,
fucking
Keith Carradine. Wild
wow.
Bill.
How Bill Hickok.
I know. It's like so perfect.
Ah, I love that show. It's a tough one because it's like I'll get your thoughts, but for me, it's like Shakespearean dialogue and monologues, and you have to be with a lot of profanity thrown in. But if you're not paying attention, like, wait, what were they just saying? But it is some good acting, some good characterization, and what's his name? Schwaringer, the like main guy of the hotel bar. He's just so good in his role. Oh man.
Ian McShane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I'm shocked that we actually, for being the main character, Montana, the sheriff, you don't really see him too often in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like where's he at? What's he doing? But like
Timothy
they're kind
Oliphant,
of
right?
Oliphant, yeah.
Oliphant.
And like, yeah, so I've been going through like the IMDb. I actually have it on my page right now, just because it's like, wow, everyone is like so familiar. I've seen so many people and they aren't household names, but I've definitely seen them in like tons of things.
Yeah.
And the most shocking one was like, my favorite character right now is Doc, just because
Hmm.
like he he kind of creeped me out the first time you see him. I was like, "Whoa, you look like a crazy guy. You look like a pedophile."
He's kind of.
But yeah, he was a little like, ugh. But then like, yeah, I'm really liking him though.
Do you know what else he's been
That's
in?
fucking Wormtongue in
Wormtongue?
Lord of the Rings,
Oh
and
yeah,
he's
yeah,
the
he is.
yeah. I was like just staring at him. I was
I'm
like,
like, how
why do you look like Wormtongue?
and he's
And
the voice of Chucky.
yes, I looked him up. I was like,
What the
whoa,
fuck? No wonder you creep me out. You're a creepy guy.
yeah. And then episode 2, Nick Offerman is in it.
Mhm.
Ron Swanson.
I forgot he
Yeah.
was in it, but yeah, I do kind of. Which character is he? I'm picturing him in it.
Well, spoiler alert, he only has like a few minutes of screen time because he dies.
Yeah. Is, why am I picturing him naked in it?
He was naked. Yeah,
Okay,
he was having yep, he was very naked in it.
I'm like, I'm picturing him naked.
Yep. They got back from an adventure and he needed some action, so he went and got some action.
Why am I picturing him? Yeah, a lot of big names. Oh man, I'm curious what you think of it when you start. Yeah, I guess it's not that long. It's only like 3 seasons in the movie, I think.
Yeah,
So
36 episodes. So
Mm.
I finished the second episode today. And yeah, I'm only watching it like while I do cardio on the
Uh-huh.
treadmill. So I'm doing it in half-hour increments. So yeah, it'll be a while. So,
And I
the
think it's
whole
when I first watched it, I thought Oliphant was the main character too, but I've watched it a couple times throughout my life, and I honestly think Ian's character,
Ian McShane,
yeah,
yeah,
McShane's character is the
the real main
main one,
character.
and I could make arguments about that, but it's there's so many characters and they're all great. Oliphant's character arguably is like the protagonist hero, but I feel like it's Ian McShane's character
Yeah, there's actually a
story.
lot of characters, and as I'm scrolling through IMDb, everyone is in like every single episode. So they have so many storylines to kind of like follow and everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a good. I want to watch it again now. I'm just talking about it.
Yeah,
I love.
maybe
Why
we'll
am
have a Deadwood rewatch
Why am I
podcast.
picturing him naked? Because he's naked. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
there it is. Yep, so that's my big update for you. But
Cool.
now to move on to the big update for everyone else. Ryan, I already texted you this, but
I know
the trial.
the trial.
So, if this is your first time ever joining us, a true crime incident has happened in my world, and we have been following the trial. If you want to listen to the whole thing from the beginning, the whole story, the whole crazy story, listen to our episode 22, which was season 2, episode 4, the Griffin equivalency. And yeah, it's like the first half hour, 40 minutes is dedicated to my perspective of the incident. And, but if you are going to rewind back, just skip the next 30 seconds to a minute, because I'm going to give you like a pretty big update.
It's a spoiler.
Because it's over.
It's over.
The trial is officially over. Last episode, I told you that I was being subpoenaed in as a witness. The very next day, I was called and I was told that she took the plea, which actually turned out really good in her favor. She is actually out of jail, and she is on probation for 5 years. No monitor.
That's really the best, because a trial could go on for a long time and she could be in jail, and even if she was found innocent, she wouldn't get that time back. So
Yeah,
probation for 5 years is, just
nothing. Yeah.
It
So
sounds like, from what we've been talking about, she seems like a decent person. It seems like it was self-defense. So
based
this
off
is
what we've heard and what I've heard in my understanding, I truly think it was self-defense.
mhm. So
But
but
the trial is over, so no final updates.
final update until
There
the
it
next
is.
crime scene that takes place next to us.
Yep, until one of my new neighbors goes crazy.
Which one of you is it gonna be?
Got my eyes on you.
You start like taunting them a little bit, egging them on. Oh, your wife's been kind of cranky, isn't she?
Wink, wink. Maybe you
Wink,
should
wink.
do something about it. No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh no.
It was an interesting
Wow.
ride. I can't believe it's been 2 years. We've been
2
following
years.
this for 2 years, and she's been in jail for 2 years. Just waiting.
Man, that'd be 2 years of your life just like gone like that. It goes by fast,
Yeah.
I guess, but still.
Oh, but yeah, a follow up, since I just thought of this. It's been a couple weeks, because I literally just got the information like 2 weeks ago, like the day after we recorded. But what happened was, why she got such a good plea deal is because her defense attorney actually found a bunch of evidence to support a history of abuse. So they presented that. So then the prosecutor just kind of like lowered the charges and everything like that, and took the plea deal.
There's other criminals out there more deserving of their time to handle, right?
Yes.
This would be a
Yes.
waste of time and energy to, like, oh, well, how much it's self-defense, but how much self-defense is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, good ending. Sad we can't talk about it anymore, but I'm glad that it came to an end with a pretty good outcome.
Yes, it worked out for her. It just sucks that she did lose 2 years of her life. Like, we're pretty much at the anniversary, like around now.
Dang.
2 years.
2 years. And she's still alive, too. I mean, the whole situation could have gone a lot worse. And,
Yep.
oh,
But there we go.
there we go.
Deadwood
Cheers.
update. I'll be sure to keep giving you Deadwood updates, because obviously I know you all care about that.
It's
And no more trial updates.
Deadwood. I'm so excited for you to watch it, because the characters get... Oh, it's like... Yeah, you think there's an evil character, and like they just get so much worse, and you're like, "Well, that evil character is really not so bad." And they just keep getting worse.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'll be sure to keep you updated.
Anything else before we get into the episode?
No, I think that's all I had to share. How about you? Anything?
I've got nothing really, everybody. My life is just grading and dealing with students and AI. That's my life now. So-
Well, with me watching Deadwood, it does inspire me to drink a lot more whiskey. So,
Fair. I'll drink to that.
boy, those people in the Wild West were fucking nuts. Like, whiskey first thing in the morning, just go to the bar. Whiskey.
That was one of the things I remember the most. I don't know why I remember this, is when I always mispronounce his name, but Ian's character.
We'll call him Al. Is his first name
Al.
Let's call him
Uh,
Al.
he's trying to take advantage of a guy like in the first episode, and he's trying to get like figure out the guy, and he asks, "Is he? Did he take his whiskey or is he sipping it?" And they're like, "He's
Yep.
sipping." He's like, "Okay, I got it." Like,
Yep.
that's all I need to know. He's sipping our whiskey, and like their whiskey is just like shit. You just chug it. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're this guy comes in like he owns the place. He's like sipping the whiskey, and everybody's looking at him.
Yeah, because he wanted to buy a plot of land for
Mm-hmm.
gold. Yep.
He's gonna get his hands into the gold digging.
Yep.
Uh,
Another familiar face. His name was Timothy Olmanson. Seen him in 1,000 things.
there's actually a character in it. I can't remember who he is the first time, but he's been in a lot of shows. I'd have to look up his name. I can think of his face, but I can't think of any shows. But he's got a droopy eyelid, and you'll know when you see him. But it's one of the weirdest things where he's in it, and then he goes away, and he comes back as a different character, and then he goes away. And then he's back in the movie as a different character. Like he's in the show 3 times as different characters.
I remember you told me about this. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to be on the lookout for
yeah.
it.
You'll know. When I say droopy eyelid, you'll know right away who it is. But expect to see his face a couple times in different ways. Like when was he back? But okay, so moving on. We are on
All right.
season 4, episode 9, The Boyfriend Complexity. This aired November 18th, 2010, directed by Mark Sandrowski. Writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Stephen Moraro. And we do have all the cast back, so that's wonderful. We start off in the apartment, and the gang is kind of while they're sorting through comic books and going through kind of what ifs with comics. And Raj mentions that the person who has it the worst in the comic book world is the person who does the bikini wax for She-Hulk. My guess is because when you tear that hair off, she hulks out and smashes you pretty quickly, right? And then it comes up that Captain American's undocumented Mexican gardener has it worse than the bikini waxer. And Leonard mentions that the guy who uses the bathroom after the thing has it even worse. And Sheldon mentions that the person who has it the worst is the one giving Wolverine a prostate exam. And I call bullshit on that. In fact, I'm surprised Sheldon would even say that because Wolverine doesn't need prostate exams. His mutant ability is like super healing. So basically, he's not going to get prostate cancer. If he does, it's not going to kill him. So he's not going to give a shit because he just has to deal with it. The doctor's not going to do anything. It's not going to happen. That person doesn't exist. The other ones might exist. So
I was gonna call that out too. Yeah, it's like
thank
he
you.
has a healing factor. It's like what he would never have that.
And I could see one of the other guys saying that, but Sheldon, I feel like, would think too logically. It bothered me that he's the one who brought it up. So Howard says that the guy who gets a prostate exam from Wolverine has it worse, and Sheldon says that's silly. Wolverine has never cared about other people's prostate
Now
health.
you're just being silly.
Now you're just being silly. So I like this conversation because it really shows the show people having a silly conversation about comic books, and it's kind of the heart of the show. But so I enjoyed starting with that. The phone rings. Sheldon picks it up and he says, "Yes, the elevator's broken. You're going to have to use the stairs." And we kind of get the understanding that it's a pizza delivery guy, and he's being told he has to walk the pizza up the stairs to the apartment. And Sheldon says that basically food has been delivered for 300 years without elevators. Join the tradition. So this is the first IQ points. I looked into pizza, I looked into elevators, and I looked into home delivery, food delivery. Did you get some stuff?
I did. I also looked at pizza history and the first elevator. I did not look at food delivery though. Nice.
I did just a quick bit of this. Do you want to start off and then I'll finish up with delivery?
Yeah. So, well, I could take pizza history. Do you want to take elevator? Or
Sure,
How do you
sure.
want this? Okay.
That
Yeah,
works.
the pizza one. Food guy, food cast. Love this.
It's all yours.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about pizza. I've been trying to make a lot of my own pizza lately because making pizza is fun.
Fun.
History.com, History Today, and all that's interesting.com all shared the same information. Um, Most of the sites that I came across show that the big boom of pizza creation occurred in the 17th and 18th century, or at least the ones that we know today. But the word pizza actually dates back to 997. So it was derived from the Latin word for pita, which is a flatbread. The concept of pizza has been around since the ancient Egyptians, Romans, and Greeks. It might have looked very different, but it's there. They were known to have flatbreads with toppings on it. And it kind of reminds me of the history of the sandwich because it's been around since pretty much since we were able to make bread, which was like way long ago.
It's part
All
of
civilized,
humanity.
yes, pretty much. All civilizations have made bread in some sort of way and have topped it, stuffed it, wedged it, or done something with it. So basically, pizza has been part of that history. But the modern pizza that we know today has its roots in southwestern Italy's Campania region, home to the city of Naples. In the 1700s and early 1800s, Naples thrived as a waterfront city and was notorious for its working poor population. These people needed cheap food that could be consumed quickly and easily. Pizza and flatbread checked off all the boxes, and they were sold by street vendors. And they even featured today's popular toppings such as tomatoes, cheese, oil, anchovies, and garlic. At the time, this was considered poor people food. The elite wanted nothing to do with pizza. The real boom came in 1889. Italian King Umberto I and Queen Margherita of Savoy visited Naples, and the Queen expressed a desire to enjoy the best food Naples had to offer. Their royal chef recommended the food of Raphael Esposito, the owner of Pizzeria Brandy. Esposito presented the Queen with three pizzas: pizza marinara with garlic, a pizza with anchovies, and a three ingredient pizza topped with tomatoes, mozzarella, and basil. The Queen loved the third pizza so much, Esposito named it after her, Pizza Margherita. But basically, pizza has been around since pretty much the dawn of time, for the most part. The 900s.
That's what I was questioning Sheldon's information because he said the 16th century, and from what I was gathering, it's been, I mean, flatbread pizza has been around, and for us, like, from my understanding, my research is the big change was adding tomatoes to it and tomato sauce. But before that, like, it was around, and like you said, it really took off in like the 1700s and 1800s. So I don't know where he got 16th century. I did find one thing that said that it was Wikipedia that said that we don't know the exact date it started, but it definitely wasn't before the 16th century, which was when the Columbian Exchange, I'm not all that familiar with it, but it was a large scale trading program, went into effect because that allowed for the ingredients to get places and for pizza to actually be created. But like you said, most of it was like it seems like 1700s is probably the earliest. Is that what you gathered too?
Yeah, pretty much when like the modern toppings pretty
Yeah.
much started happening. When pizza started looking like what we have today. But otherwise, like, I mean, the thing is, like, I guess it depends how you want to think about this. Because, like, if the word pizza has been around for flatbread or pita and everything like that, it's semantics at
It's
this point.
semantics. Yeah.
But pizza did date back earlier.
I also wanted to say that I kept seeing this and that the King and Queen Margarita being part of the boom, like I think that probably did happen, but as to what part was kind of urban legend. They say part of the reason she liked it was because it was the colors of the Italian flag, the cheese, the red sauce, and the green, right? The basil. And I don't know why that's such a big deal, but it always comes back up in the legend. Like she ate it and it was the colors of the flag. Like, okay.
Maybe it was a double whammy. It was
So,
delicious and it represented Italy.
this is our this is our food. And she held it up like Simba.
The pizza just melting all over her hands.
And all the people came out of their homes and bowed to the pizza. um, so yeah, but I'm gonna come back to the king and queen visiting and picking that up. I was also one other thing I was going to add was that it kind of became more global in the mid 1900s. 1940s was one of the dates I saw that immigrants really started bringing it across the world and across the United States. So it's kind of we know it is kind of recent, but yeah. So for elevators, I really didn't understand his year. Like it seemed out of nowhere, even more so than the pizza. He said, if I record, 1852 was the first elevator, and that's just it's not true. What we got
His wording was 1852 was when it was first installed.
installed.
So that's where again, this might be another semantics thing.
Yeah.
Where maybe it was installed, but it wasn't for public use. That's kind of like.
I found the year 1852 and I found something connected to it, but it wasn't installed. I'll get to it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure exactly where he was going with that, but basically, reports say the first elevator, and this is from mostly Wikipedia, that the first elevator is reported in 236 BC. And we know that like Egyptians were using it to build stuff, and Romans and Greeks started using them to build stuff to carry equipment up further. But they weren't necessarily what we know elevators to be. 1852, what I found for that year was Elijah Otis introduced the first elevator that prevented a fall if the cable broke. So basically, if your cable broke before that, you'd fall to your death. And this elevator was designed that if it broke, you would fall and like stop, and not just breaks at the end. So like in movies, when the elevator breaks, like that's fictionalized. Like there are safety things installed to help make sure that you don't die if the cable breaks. So like that was just one type of elevator. I don't think it's even like the modern. There were different elevator types, hydraulics, cable elevators, but the elevator that we know of today, which is weird, technically the elevator shaft was invented in 1853. And so they had designed like this shaft, and they didn't actually have an elevator to go in it. So we had an elevator that the cable could break and you'd still be safe. We had the shaft, but we didn't have an elevator to go in the elevator shaft as we know it today. The elevator didn't get installed until like 1857. And so I kind of took it as that, but technically, even further than that, Werner von Siemens invented the first electric elevator in 1880. So the question is, was it really an elevator as we know it today if it wasn't electric? Because I don't even know how it would work if it wasn't electric, like man powered. So, anyways, that's kind of what I would maybe think the first elevator would be, the one in 1880. We go. In 1900, the first automated elevators became available. However, people were terrified of them. They're basically, have you ever been like Oregon or is it Jersey, New Jersey? Do people still have somebody pump their gas?
I I know it's Oregon. Why do I feel like it was Jersey too? Yeah, I think was it
Jersey.
both?
And I think Oregon's opened it up to allow people to pump their gas, but like I remember talking to people from those states and they're like, I'm terrified to pump gas. And it's like, it's not that hard. You just do it. And they're like, no, I can't do it. Like, it freaked them out. So I imagine it was the same thing, that it's really easy to use an elevator, but they wanted somebody to do it for them because they assumed that if they did it, they would crash their elevator and everything would explode. So,
I press that button, the whole thing will implode.
no, not that button. So technically, the first automated one was in 1900, but they didn't become popular until around 1945 because there was a strike for elevator conductors, and emergency buttons started going in, like the emergency stop, the emergency call, and whatnot. So it wasn't until 1945 that elevators, exactly as we know them, with the buttons that you use yourself that are electronic and were in a shaft, were more of a thing. So technically, elevators have always been around. The 1852 that Sheldon said a type of elevator was invented, but I'm not sure why he chose that one amongst all the other ones. But technically, a type was invented then. Uh, and also technically, since pizza, you know, what we're talking about wasn't invented or wasn't really becoming popular until the 1700s, that's not 300 years. That's like 150 years. So he was off by like 150. And even if it was the 1600s, you're still looking at like 200, 250 years. So I don't know. His years were a little bit off. And that brought me to, when was delivery invented? And this is according to grubtech.com. And it suggests that actual food delivery was known to come from India. And I'm going to mispronounce this, but the food delivery people were called Dabbawalas, Dabbawalas. And it basically translates to one who carries a box or boxes, I suppose. And basically, as cities were becoming so large and so crowded and the workforce was rising, and with British rule forcing more workers into certain areas, and they needed food to be delivered, so that became kind of a big thing. And they, from what I was seeing, delivering them on bikes. But what's weird is the first pizza delivery that we know of, or at least according to the site, was Naples with the king and queen when they went and visited and they got pizza. Technically, they had, what was his name? Chef Eposita?
Esposito?
Eposita? They had him come to them to make the pizzas. So technically, that's considered the first pizza delivery, if that's, you believe that legend, and that's how it went down. So it's kind of always been around, mostly due to the economic and working conditions in India, but technically as royalty, you have people come to you, so maybe that. It also said that in the US, kind of the first documented Chinese takeout was 1922 LA with a place called Kinshu Cafe. And so those were kind of the main points that it said about food delivery. And again, I think it's just what I found from this was that I didn't understand Sheldon states very much. I don't know why I picked those. But yeah.
Yeah, I noticed they're off too. I pretty
So
much clocked the everything that you saw.
all right. So same things. Yeah, I'm curious. You know, I've loved the legends of food, so I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear about the king and queen like that. Oh, it was the Italian flags. I don't know.
I've always been like, well, I wouldn't say always, but I've never really been a fan of delivery food just because, I didn't want to pay the extra, and I don't know, it just wasn't in me. But lately, we've been so into DoorDash. It's been, and I'll tell you why. Because even with the added fees, it doesn't like taking my 2-year-old out to a restaurant is a nightmare.
uh, yeah.
I would rather just pay the extra fee and just have the food delivered and we just eat here. Where, okay, now you can throw your food and yell and scream all you want.
Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, so we've been door dashing pretty often.
There's the fees for me, but I find that it's always kind of cold and soggy by the time it gets to me. And if I go pick it up and bring it back to my house, it's a little cold, but it's never as bad as if I have it delivered, and it takes less time too. So that's my argument. But if I've been drinking because it's a game day or something, and when I say game day, I don't mean football. I mean board game day. Like I've been playing 8 hours straight of Risk or something. Um, then I'm not going to drive
The
out and get myself
real
a
game
pizza. The
day.
real important game days. The problem with this is Kelsey has a lot of food allergies. I know I've mentioned this before. A big one is dairy, and most things that get delivered usually have some cheese on them. And if the person's not paying attention, or if they don't know that it's a food allergy, they'll cross contaminate, and you'll find like parts of cheese in it, and that could ruin the game. That's going to ruin the game day.
Yeah.
So she probably won't die. She'll probably get sick before it kills her. But so food allergies aren't that bad where it's like one nut and she dies. But it's enough where she doesn't want to eat it, and then we would have to call and wait like another hour to 2 hours for it to get to us. So it's like it's easier for us to go so she can check it to make sure at the place so that they can remake it right then and there. And I've learned too, because there's been a couple times where I've picked it up and not checked, and I brought it home. She's like, "There's cheese all over this." Where I'm like, "Ah, shit!
What have you done?
What have you done? Are you trying to kill me, Ryan?"
I know. I'm always really lazy about checking the order. Because it's
Mm.
like, whatever, I'm just gonna go there. I'm not gonna like take the time to open the bag like right in front of them as there's like a line behind me and stuff like that. I just take it home and then my wife yells at me. Why
And
did
then I
you
get
let
yelled
go?
at. It's part of life.
It's like, because I didn't want to.
I was telling Rob earlier too that I just watched Monster-in-Law last night with Jennifer Lopez, and I've never seen it before, but apparently she has allergies in it, and her mother-in-law is kind of thinking about killing her. Like it gets kind of weird. But she isn't gonna go through with it, but kind of accidentally adds nuts to one of her things, and Jennifer Lopez like, I think there were nuts in this, and her face is like blimping up, and she's like, no nuts. So yeah, it's
I don't
kind
know what you're
of,
talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah. Anyways, okay, so that is a good IQ point. Uh,
Yeah.
and if anybody has
Well,
any,
three
and,
separate IQ points. We're gonna
yeah,
count that
that's
as
true.
three right there. Three different
Nice.
topics.
Because I didn't have a whole lot for this episode, so that's going to help boost those numbers.
I have a couple more to
I
go
have
through.
two and a half, 1.5 more. I forget. Something like that. Okay, so Leonard goes to Penny's to let her know the pizza is coming, and uh, he says, "Oh, I'm going to do that," while the guy spits in the food. And when he leaves, Raj asks if Wolverine got an adamantium prostate. And I don't get why he would even ask this, because the adamantium covered his bones. It was just covering his bones. It didn't cover his organs. You can't have a ti- adamantium or titanium organ. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe you could,
yeah,
but
I did the same. I noticed the same
same
thing
thing.
too. It's like, and I feel like they should, as comic book readers, they should know this because this has been information since 1991. That's when the Weapon X arc came out.
I
So
remember.
they should know that.
And I agree that there's no silly questions, but this seemed just kind of out of place. Like they would know more than why bother asking that, because if you apply hot adamantium directly to a prostate, it's just going to melt it, right? Or burn it. I don't know.
No,
It's
he would have regenerated it.
it's true. He would have regenerated it, but then it would be covered in metal, and like
It wouldn't function.
it wouldn't function. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember too that part of this that I remember that was just a skeleton is there's the big debate about Bone Claw Wolverine, right? That
Yep.
if the adamantium covered his bones and he had adamantium claws, then he must have had the claws beforehand, because the metal would have covered his claws. And when that kind of came out, you started seeing the Bone Claw Wolverine rendition come out. I don't know if that was an entire arc. I just remember playing him in Marvel vs. Capcom or something. So
Yeah, I remember you did an IQ point on that, I think.
did I? Wow. I'm
It
losing my
might have been an
IQs.
IQ point, but we definitely talked
Okay.
about that before because you like the accuracy of calling it bone claw rather than claw
Yes.
claw.
That sounds right. That sounds
Yeah.
like me. Wow.
But yeah,
Oh,
but like I said, like as much comics as they read, this has been information since the early 90s, and it
yeah, they
was
would have
part of
known
the
that.
arc that it was only around his bones and everything.
Hmm.
So sorry, Raj, that was a dumb question.
That was a dumb question. There were dumb questions, and you asked one. Unless maybe Raj is just a poser and he doesn't read the comics. He just pretends. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to read all these comics.
Or maybe he doesn't understand what he's reading, but not because he's racist.
Not because he's racist, just him. So Leonard goes to Penny's and a man answers the door. He's a kind of a taller, rough man. And it is guest star Keith Carradine playing Wyatt, Penny's dad. And
I think
we
it's
mentioned
Carradine because
Carradine?
he's David Carradine's brother.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense now. I'm terrible at pronouncing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we went over that he is at Wild Bill Hickok in Deadwood. He was in Cowboys and Aliens. He is in quite a few episodes of Dexter. Apparently, he was in one of the Fargo series. I haven't seen all the series, so I don't remember him from it, but I would watch that. Fargo has been pretty good. So he's been in a lot of stuff. And if you want to watch Deadwood, he is fantastic in that too.
Luscious hair too.
Luscious hair and a
My
great
Lord,
beard.
I thought he was a pirate for a second. That hat, the hair, the mustache. I was like, good Lord.
It's all
play
working.
a pirate. Why were you not in Pirates of the Caribbean?
So Leonard is confused by this man, and Penny finally comes out and introduces him, and then says, "Thank you for stopping by," and gives Leonard a big kiss on the mouth, and then closes the door. And I love Leonard just sitting there like, "Well, that was odd." Like that's his response. That was odd. Goes back to the apartment, and Sheldon asks if Raj has enough comics to read. That he has about 7 hours of comics, and he's going to need 12 because he's going to be manning or delegating a telescope for 12 hours. And he mentions that the 7 hours takes into account Raj's difficulty in parsing American comic book idioms, Banff, and Snikt. And this is like another issue I have with this episode. The terminology is off. This is so dorky of me, but an idiom is, and this isn't even an IQ point, this is just my thoughts off the bat. Idiom is a group of words that means something different than the words totally. So it's like a saying. The ones that I found just right off the bat online, the ball's in your court, like it's a sports reference, but it means like anything, like you've been in a fight and you've given them the opportunity to take advantage. It's not, you don't actually mean a ball, you don't actually mean a court, you mean it's somebody's turn to take action. Two peas in a pod, you're not actually talking about green peas, you're talking about people who relate closely. The elephant in the room, you're talking about the awkward situation. Banff and Snikt are not idioms, they are onomatopoeias, which are words that are the sounds of what they are. Do you know what they are? I had to look
Banff and
Banff.
Snikt?
Yeah,
I
I had to
actually
look
know.
Banff up.
I didn't look those up, but I did. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't
Snikt
even bother.
Snikt is the sound of Wolverine's claws coming out. So when he ejects his claws, it
Oh.
goes snick, snick. Like I don't get why. Banff
Yeah.
apparently is Nightcrawler teleporting. When he disappears into a cloud of smoke, it goes Banff.
Oh, okay, cool.
So again, they're the sounds. They're not idioms. I don't know. Like that didn't. Yeah, that whole thing didn't make sense to me. So
well, he's
not
a scientist, not an English teacher. So
that's true. I'll take it. Why not?
that's the only way I can explain this.
Damn it! I'm a scientist, not an English teacher, Ryan. All right, so Raj asks if Sheldon's idea was racist, saying he wasn't going to understand American idioms. And Howard says Sheldon is just calling Raj illiterate, not his race, so it's okay. Raj says he doesn't need any more comic books because Howard's going to come over and they're going to play Intergalactic Battleship and India Monopoly. And so I looked into Monopoly a little bit. Did you do any research on Monopoly?
Very little.
No.
I did, but you may have done more. I just looked at the different variations and the Star Trek variations and Indian Monopoly.
Let me know what you came up first because I started going down a rabbit hole with different weird things, and so we probably have
Ye-
completely different information.
we might. Well, so people say it seems like people say different things with the different iterations. Some people are saying that there are thousands. But then there are some that only say that there's like in the range of like 300. Like those are the official ones. So it's like I could not really find a clear answer, but it does seem like, you know what, if there are all like thousands of different variations of like Monopoly, somebody had to create them, somebody had to get licensing. So I'm going to say that they count. Personally, I would say that. Um I hopped on a fandom page. It's Monopoly Wiki Fandom, and I counted 1,686 versions.
Holy shit!
And yeah, and amongst all those, I looked at the Star Trek ones, and there are only oddly only four. Right? I mean, did you look specifically into Star Trek?
You know, I looked for the Klingon one and found the Klingon one, and I noticed a couple. I didn't count them, and then I can't remember. I thought there were more, but I know that I was looked over and I was looking at Star Wars too because it had Star Trek and Star Wars like back to back. So
Yeah,
I think four sounds
yeah.
about right.
The more important star.
The more important of all the stars.
Yep. Sorry, Trekkers out there.
Hey, to
But
be
there's
fair, you
Star.
haven't
uh,
watched them yet. Maybe if you watch them,
That's
everything's gonna
fair.
change.
Yeah, I know. I watched it like fuck that Star Wars stuff.
And fuck Star Wars, what was I doing with my life?
You take that lightsaber and just shove it up your ass. Mandalorian, more like Borlorian.
Wolverine.
Well, the four iterations of the Star Trek Monopoly I found were Star Trek Continuum Edition, Star Trek Limited Edition, which is the original series, um, Star Trek The Next Generation Edition, and then the Klingon Edition. Like I said, I'm a little shocked that there aren't more. With all the different Star Treks out there.
So there might be, and I'm gonna go back to stuff, but the last thing I found because I was looking into like what it takes to make a version of Monopoly. Apparently, it gets confusing because there's sites out there. What got me was I actually googled like how do you make a version of Monopoly, and there's sites that come off, and I originally made the note. You can print off your own knockoff versions. You can just make your own version. You pay them a fee, and they will make it for you. And they do a pretty quality product from what it looks like, but they aren't licensed by Hasbro, and you have to be careful because if you start using anything that Hasbro has copyrighted or trademarked, you can get a lawsuit. However, the game itself apparently is in the public domain. Apparently, from what I found, a Quaker made it to dispel or point out the evils of capitalism. And when he made it, he put it in the public domain, apparently, according to what I was reading. And so technically, the game itself is in the public domain, but the places, the names, the fonts, the exact colors are licensed to Hasbro. So the question comes up, how many official Hasbro licensed versions are there that Hasbro is making money off of? And I'm guessing that's where the 300 number comes in, but it's really hard to say because if you have an idea for it, you go to one of these websites and you can make your own version of Monopoly. I think even the word Monopoly is in public domain, so you can call it whatever Opoly and you're fine. So before I
I
go into
actually want
my
to look up. Yeah, I want to look up if there's a Big Bang Theory Monopoly.
there
Was there?
is, and
Okay.
I got into it. So my big that's kind of where I got distracted on started getting distracted on this. I found out there is a Big Bang version, a Big Bang Theory version, and I had a spoiler from just looking
Oh
into what it
no.
was. And it's not a huge spoiler, but one of the pieces that you can be like, there were several pieces. One was like Penny's wine glass, which I don't think is a huge thing, but it's something. Uh, Raj is gonna get a dog named Cinnamon.
Oh, okay, that's not so bad.
That's not a huge
That's
thing, but apparently that's one of the board game pieces. I'm like, dog Cinnamon. Oh no! So a little spoiler. I found out that in this game, the Big Bang Theory version, Boardwalk and Park Place, like all the places need different names. Uh, these Boardwalk and Park Place are Sheldon and Leonard's apartment and Penny's apartment. And then the community chest and chance cards are actually the roommate agreement and a fortune cookie. And then instead of houses and hotels, you get colliders and super colliders. And so that was going in. I'm guessing all the cards are a little bit different, but those were the major things listed. I also looked into the Klingon version, and like you said, there is a Klingon version of Monopoly. The major changes that I could find, because there wasn't a whole lot of information on it. And the currency, instead of dollars, it's forces. Like apparently Klingons deal in how many forces, how many troops you have, or something. So that's what you exchange. That was my understanding. Instead of community chests and chance cards, you have combat and honor piles. Instead of houses and hotels, you get outposts and capitals. And then the big one is I did look into if there was an Indian version of the game, and apparently there is. I found on Amazon they actually have one called Monopoly India. However, most of the places I looked at called it Desi, DSI, Monopoly Desi.
Desi, yeah.
And did you find more on this?
No, I didn't look too much into like the rules and the cards and everything like that. I just wanted to see how rare it was, and
Yeah,
apparently not very rare because you could buy it on eBay, buy it now for $32.
it was weird. Like I could find it for sale, but I didn't find much information on it, like on my board game website. So yeah, one thing is looking at the pictures. I think Howard was wrong when he said that the money is rupees. Like that would have made sense to me, but it looked like the money was just like 500, like
The
Monopoly
normal
dollars.
stuff,
Yeah, the
yeah.
normal. But what I did notice is that the places aren't just like in India. They're at least the Desi version. I couldn't tell if the Desi version was completely different than Monopoly India, but it looked like the places were more about British Asian culture. That's what it said on the sites. So the places were from around the world. So instead of uh, someplace, oh, it said one place was like Broadway and South Hall, and then New Delhi Station for one of the railroads. So like places around the world as opposed to just places in India. It said that they had places in Britain, places in Europe. Uh, and then I think when Howard said call centers and hotels, he was just being a jackass and definitely nothing about dysentery. That sounded more like an Oregon Trail type thing. So
Wrong game, Howard.
wrong game. And that's where Howard says that he is actually being racist with that, right? So
Yeah, yeah, so he was just being a dick.
yeah. Anything else on monopolies?
Nope,
Nope.
that's it.
Interesting. I think it's hilarious that there was a Big Bang Theory one. And like I didn't even mean to look that up. I was just looking and it like popped up. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah, if you ever come visit, we'll play Mystic Warlords of Ka, and we'll have to buy this game if you
Big
ever
Bang?
decide to visit, or the next time I go.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, speaking of which, I am plan. We're trying to plan a trip right now.
Hmm.
July. So
July.
I have no idea when because Christina is supposed to be talking to her sister about it.
Okay.
But sometime in July, we're planning on visiting for like a week.
Robin Ryan date time.
Yep. Smoke some meats. We'll do not a live show, but we'll be in the same room. Maybe we'll coordinate and do an episode.
We're gonna do like the ghost scene, but instead of ceramics, it's gonna be us making bread together.
Yeah. Are you gonna help me knead?
I'm gonna knead together.
Yep. I'll bring my starter. I don't know if it'll survive the trip.
Leonard comes back in and Sheldon starts guessing random strings of events. I don't have my Sheldon tally open. What was I thinking? I get 1 point for being like Sheldon here, and I didn't get many points in this episode, but I will be the first to create random strings of events like
Scenarios.
this. Yeah, scenarios. And I don't know if he's joking completely. I don't believe he actually thinks that, but it's fun to think. I would create a random scenario when someone asks, guess what just happened? I remember in high school I used to create just random things like, you know what we need to do tonight? I'm like, we need to go to the zoo. We need to steal a penguin. We're going to take that penguin, give him a briefcase. We're going to let that penguin at the briefcase let it out at the airport. He's going to fly to DC, and in DC, and people are like, the fuck are you talking about, Ryan? I'm like,
Um, no.
so yeah, 1 point because I like to make up stuff like that, but
Your
I think
imagination runs wild.
runs wild, and I get my hopes up that maybe they did time travel. I think Sheldon was actually banking on it, but I'm just hopeful.
Well, he
And
said never guess what happened, and
it's
you
true.
got to shoot for the stars.
Gonna shoot something amazing. And he says, no, Penny kissed him. And who would have guessed that, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot more disappointing. Nobody cares, except Leonard. They talk about the kiss, and Howard mentions that maybe it was an accidental. She went in for the cheek and actually got some lip. Apparently, that happens with his mom all the time.
Yeah.
Howard says maybe it was a message. Maybe that wasn't her father. She was calling for help and he needs to call the cops. And Leonard says he felt like it meant something. It was special in some way. And Howard says that track takes him back and he loves those original Leonard moments. And Raj says, our babies will be both smart and beautiful line, right? And Leonard asks why he bothers talking to them, and Sheldon says that they rarely listen anyways. I love that final quip in there. Penny comes over to talk. Sheldon mentions that the pizza's probably never going to show up, and Penny takes Leonard outside, and they start talking. She explains that she mentioned to her dad that they got back together, that she didn't want him nagging on her for dating other guys, and Leonard's the only guy he's ever approved of. And Leonard starts wanting to know how they got back together in this fictional world. And this is kind of the start of him being kind of a jerk about it. I thought it was kind of funny, but it is kind of being a jerk. And he goes, he never backs off. And I think that's the problem, is I think it's funny, but he has to back off at some point and he doesn't. But he's like, did you apologize? Did you woo me? And her response is, I whistled and you came running. And honestly, that we all know that sounds accurate. I whistled and you came running. Leonard says he's good with play acting and doing the kissing, so he's fine with this routine because he's going to get a little kiss action. The dad comes out, Wyatt comes out, and Leonard is all over Penny, and Wyatt asks if Leonard wants to come to dinner with them. Penny tries to push Leonard off and says he has to work, and he basically says, no, I'll make time, I'll come with you. So they go out to dinner because the pizza's not going to show up anyways. Now we're at the office, and Howard and Raj are playing Galactic Battleship, which I didn't look into this actual game, and they're writing it on note paper, so I think it's something they made up. I didn't bother looking.
Yeah, I couldn't find a game called that. The only one that I found was Battleship Outer Space. Yeah, so the actual term intergalactic battleship is actually associated to a video game.
Is it an actual battleship game, or
it plays out like Battleship, but it's not an actual board game. It's only for digital.
Maybe. And it seems like they were making up rules too, because I couldn't tell if Raj is cheating, because it turns out that Howard has hit a ship, and that for him to
he was totally cheating.
Oh, he was cheating.
Totally cheating.
Okay, because I was thinking maybe their ships look differently. Like if you look at
Romulan donut or
if you
Romulan
look at
bagel,
the Enterprise, right? You get the big circle, and then you get like the two engines. So I was thinking like maybe like it was in between the engines or something. I don't know. They're making up their own rules, but I think he was cheating too. And Bernadette comes in. I love her. I love seeing her. She's great. comes in and they explain that the telescope is in Hawaii and that Raj is kind of commanding it for the night because he's looking for signs of a planet. And she says, ah, "Oh, so they're just gonna sit there waiting on the looking at the screen, waiting for something to happen." And Howard mentions that's what they did when they rented the Notebook, so it's not that different. They decide to open up a bottle of wine to get Raj talking because he can't talk with Bernadette in the room. And Raj says that he can't drink while he's working. Howard mentions Galileo did it on the notion that Galileo was Italian. Raj says, ask if Howard can open his mouth without spewing cultural stereotypes. So again, we're pointing out that this episode is full of kind of racial stereotypes. But again, Howard's getting it back. So, it's not like we're seeing Howard being heroic or being the hero, of the story. He's going to get what's coming. Howard says Raj and Bernadette should bond. This is a good time. And he says, like my mom, Raj, you and her bonded. Raj says Howard's mom creeps him out, but apparently she has stopped calling him Slumdog Millionaire, and Raj at least appreciates that. So they've made some headway, I suppose. They toast, and Bernadette stops them before they drink. And she says, okay, no, it's fine. Turns out that she's been working with penicillin resistant gonorrhea and couldn't remember if she washed her hands. And I love Ross just looks at Howard and spits his back out.
Good call.
I love her stories. Like, I don't know what she's coming up with next, but it always makes me laugh.
Well, I actually did a little bit of research on what Raj is doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he is hoping to see Epsilon Eridani dim. And I was like, what? What are you doing? Pretty much. Basically, he's looking for evidence that there is a planet orbiting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this, I did a little bit of research on Wikipedia and then starfacts.com. So Epsilon Eridani is the third closest star to Earth that we're able to see with the naked eye. The first ones are Alpha Centauri and Sirius. The search for the planet, so basically what they're trying to do is if it actually does dim, it means that something is orbiting it.
Kind of like an eclipse, right? Like if the moon goes in front of the sun, it gets dimmer. So
yeah, so that's what he's searching for. So the search for a planet revolving around the star was real, and it led to a real controversy in the astronomy world. Because a lot of people didn't think that it did exist or that there was anything out there. But a planet was discovered on August 7th, 2000. But it was disputed for many years. So that's kind of where Raj is, because it's 2010. So they're trying to validate it. Someone found it, but nobody believed them. So Raj is doing the research to validate it. It was confirmed in 2015 that the dimming of it was indeed a planet. And they named it a gear. But it was not Raj that discovered it. Oh. It was an American astronomer, Artie P. Hates.
Poor Raj.
And that's what I got. So, real thing.
I figured they just made it up. I figured the star was real, but I figured I didn't realize that the whole incident was a true thing that they were debating.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, Raj puts his wine out. And next scene, we're in the car after dinner, and Leonard's thanking Wyatt for the steak. Wyatt says it's nice to have a dinner with a guy who knows how to use a napkin. And they start talking about Penny's ex-boyfriends, and he mentions Donnie, who was going to make millions turning farm waste into biofuel for the government. Leonard mentions this was a real thing, and people do make money off this, but Donnie's apparently Donnie's idea of this was only to mix water with pig crap and put it into his mom's car. That's not going to do it. So this is kind of my failed IQ point for the episode, because it was a lot lackluster than I thought. When I was thinking biofuels, I was thinking fermented crops, basically taking and distilling corn and turning it into liquor. That's how you get ethanol, or as we like to call it, Everclear. Everclear and ethanol are basically the same thing, except as far as I know, they put dye in one of them so that they can tax it and know this one is meant for cars, this one's meant for human consumption. I'm sure that there's some safety regulations over how clean it is too, but technically, from what I've heard, if you have an ethanol fueled car, you could put a bottle of Everclear in it and it should work to some extent. And that's the other thing. I think I've talked about this before, but in movies where people like shoot a bar and the whole bar explodes because alcohol is supposed to be flammable, like to get it flammable, you really have to get to that high octane, to the Everclear, like, very high percentage of alcohol. But at that point, it does basically become a type of gasoline. But, thinking about manure, I was like, wow, you can turn manure into biofuel. Eh, kind of. What you do is, and this is according to azcentral.com, but I found other websites that basically said the same thing. You use something called a digester. And a digester is basically a septic tank with a cap on it, an airtight cap. And all the manure goes into the digester, the septic tank, and the methane gas gets released, and you harvest that methane gas, and then you can use that methane gas for fuel energy needs. So basically, it wasn't as interesting. You just basically cap the crap and bottle the methane gas from it. So not a huge IQ point, but apparently you can do that. It is definitely more than just putting pig crap into your car, but at the same time, nothing too fancy. Uh, they mentioned
Why do
all.
I feel like we did some research on that when we did the trains in India?
I remember the trains in
Why
India
do I?
talking about the holes in the floor.
Why do I feel like we did a little bit of research that India is really working on turning on doing that with like trains and everything because there's so much like pretty much. God, am
That
I?
sounds familiar. It's like seeing Ron
When did
Swanson
we
naked
talk?
all over again.
Yeah, this might take too long
All
to
right.
look into, but I swear I thought we did something,
We
but
might do a follow up on this if we can do some research.
yeah.
But it kind of sounds familiar now that you say it. All right, so they mentioned another guy named Curtis who wanted to put beer pong in the Olympics. And so Penny's kind of getting attacked by both of them. But part of what I liked about this episode is the fact that Leonard gets along with Wyatt. And I feel like that's wholesome and says something about the relationship that they get along. And I can see why Penny likes him, that he has these qualities other than just being a scientist or just liking her, that he actually has part of her family values and traditions at heart, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he actually is a quality person. Like he actually like has his shit together. He has a career. He knows how to like act in front of other people and things like that.
Yeah, and be polite, and yeah. So they're in the hall, and Wyatt invites Leonard in for a nightcap. And he says Leonard needs to go to work in the morning, and he has to leave. Leonard says he loves her, and again tries to force a kiss on her. Sheldon comes by as he's trying to kiss her, and it's like, not this again, and goes into the apartment. So he's gonna have a bad time. Back at the office, they are playing Indian Monopoly, and they make a joke about or Howard makes a joke about not moving further forward due to a sacred cow. Raj says that he needs to stop making the cow jokes, and Raj and Bernadette start talking about how Howard gets caught up, and once he gets on a joke wagon, he keeps it up. And they mention his hair material, like when she says, "Did you get your hair cut?" And he says, "No, I got them all cut." Ba-dum bum. And then I love that Bernadette looks at him and she goes, "It's still funny."
It's so
It's
funny.
so
She's such
fun.
a good girlfriend.
She's
Like
great. And then they mention the fortune cookie, which is always the same, where he opens up a fortune cookie and says, "Help, I'm a prisoner in a cookie factory." And they then go into making fun of Howard's mom. So as he's sitting there, they're mocking her voice and saying, "Howard, I'm stuck in the bathtub again." And so he's getting his comeuppance, to say the least.
and Bernadette mimics her voice so well.
Very well. It was great. And, Raj did a pretty good job too, but Bernadette was right on top of it. Howard. Back at the apartment, Penny comes over to complain about her father liking Leonard. And he offers to go over and tell that they're broken up. And I like this because, not him offering, we were talking about this, that is he sincere in offering? And I thought he was. I thought he was saying, like, if you want to tell him, I'm okay with that. I'm okay going along with this. I'm having fun. But whatever you want, I'm down with. And he took it
I
more as him digging his heels and, like, what do you want to do?
I took that as more of like he was playing like the victim card in that
Hmm.
sense. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's like you could unlodge your head out of your ass.
Just be nice and go with it. Somebody needs help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you don't need to like lean in this much. Like you're obviously taking advantage of the situation.
But I did like it. It made me laugh that he's like, maybe you should have figured out what you wanted before you stormed over here. And she's kind of like, yeah, maybe I should have. So she doesn't even know
Yeah.
what she wants, which I
Yeah.
think I think part of why I like that too is it shows that she does still have emotions for him. That she is kind of enjoying this game. She doesn't want to tell her dad. Uh, Yet she's irritated by it too because she's being forced into this and she's not, but she's confused by the situation. Maybe not as confused as Leonard is because he likes her, he loves her, but I do like seeing that she's confused by it too. Maybe I'm overlooking into it, but that's kind of where I was at. Uh, and then Sheldon comes out with a lot of paperwork to the roommate agreement amendments and whatnot, and oh, Penny. Well, he starts by mentioning Penny's annoying habits, and she starts to tell him that it's all a plot. But Leonard shushes her and says it's just easier. And Sheldon's like, "Wait, is there a plot afoot?" Right? And we know that him is if there's a plot, his brain goes haywire. So they just say, "Nope, nope, we're back together." Let him think that. And he mentions that Leonard's going to be responsible for Penny's infractions and will have to pay her fines. And so he'll need to set up an escrow account. And as we know in the past that he's fined other friends, it was Howard, right? That Howard had a fine on something and he never
The
paid it.
Blu-rays.
The
Yeah, he
Blu-rays,
broke a
right?
tabby thing.
That's
Yeah.
right. He's never paid his fines. So you'll need
Well,
to set up an escrow account.
I just don't get like why even sign it? Why
And he does go in to sign it too. Like maybe he's afraid that Sheldon will think it's a ruse if he doesn't sign. I don't know.
It's kind of like, but at the same time, it's like, why? Why are you signing it? It's a proposed. He's proposing an alteration to the roommate agreement. He doesn't have to agree to it.
He'll need to set up escrow. So back at the office,
I guess, like looking at this, I know it's a plot. I know if he signs it, it's invalid because it's like it doesn't matter because he's not with Penny, so it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it's an illustration that he must have done this before, and based off his behavior, Leonard just blindly signs it. It's like,
he's just
dude,
kind of abused into doing it. Like, okay, I'll sign it. It's easier.
It's just easier, but at the same time, it's like, what's the worst that's gonna happen if he just says no? Like,
No,
nah, I'm good. I like our current arrangement.
no, we'll talk about it later. And that's true. Because I forgot that he does that. Like the scene ends with him going in to sign. Like, just okay. So at the office, Raj is on the phone and he's talking to Hawaii, and he says the telescope needs to be repositioned on Scarlett Johansson's house. Ha ha ha! And then he hangs up. Just kidding, hangs up. It's clear that he is drunk. Howard mentions they probably shouldn't have opened the second bottle of wine. That might have been too much. And Bernadette starts asking Raj about the planet. Could it sustain life? And Raj mentions that if it could, he's going to be famous and that he's going to be rich and on the cover of magazines and he's going to have a huge house. And they're not going to come visit him because they're going to be intimidated by his fame and wealth. And his only friends or his only companions are going to be his genetically altered monkey butler and the little people he's hired to be his chess components for live chess. So he's got this phantom world already created. Howard and Bernadette say Raj has taken a turn to the dark side, and he starts complaining about how he hasn't kissed a girl in a year. Well, what about the girl from Comic-Con? He lied about her. He lies all the time. And Bernadette says that he's a great man and lots of girls want to kiss him. And he starts looking at her and starts going in for a kiss. Howard jumps up and intercepts the kiss. And as they're kissing and realizing what's happening, she goes, "Well, this was fun." Love her response. "This was fun.
Yep, time to go."
Time to go. I don't know if she knew what was going on, and she was kind of drunk too, but she was just kind of sitting there, which I thought was kind of weird as he was like starting to lean in. But I do like her saying, "This was fun."
Well, I think it was more like you wouldn't have ever expected that.
Yeah.
Like Bernadette, like from Bernadette's perspective, she would never have thought that like he would just jump in.
Jump in. And I think they were all a little tipsy, so she's like, "I don't know what's going on," but definitely Howard's like, "No." Good scene. This was fun. Back at the apartment, it's the next morning. Wyatt and Leonard are playing a fishing game. And I think it's hilarious that Wyatt's like, "Man, the fish are really biting." That's what happens when you said it's easy. So.
Yeah.
And then he gets a phone call. Penny is on the phone, and he's basically like, yep. So the whole relationship was bullshit. He doesn't say shit. I forget what he says, but he...
Bull squirt.
Bull squirt. There we go. I knew it was a weird word that I wasn't. She has confessed to the lie, and Wyatt looks over and is disappointed with Leonard. Flash forward to Penny's place, and they're on the couch like little kids, and he's lecturing them, and it gets down to the point that he respects her, but wants the same respect in return, and is reprimanding her, and tells her to go get dressed so they can grab a bite to eat before he has to fly out. And she starts to defend Leonard, saying he had nothing to do, and he tells her, "Get going, I will deal with him." And as she disappears, he basically jumps at Leonard, begging him, "Don't give up on her, please."
It was nice of Penny to try to defend Leonard.
For the crap that he was pulling, it was really nice of her. Yeah, I think if it would have been me, I'd be like, no, it was his idea, Dad," because he was like trying to kiss her the whole time. So, but I feel like, please don't give up on her. And he says that he doesn't want her to go back to the same losers that she's been dating, that what was the thing? Wants grandkids to grow up in a house without wheels. And Leonard says that...
Which I will say I think is a goof.
Why's that?
Because he should already have a grandchild. Because in a previous episode, Penny went to the comic book shop to buy comics for her nephew. That's when she met Stuart and started going on dates with Stuart.
I forgot that. I remember she had a brother. Didn't her brother go to jail?
She has siblings.
Yeah.
Is it like a brother and a sister or something like that?
Yeah.
But like she has siblings, and she had to go buy comics for her nephew. A 13-year-old nephew.
Huh. You're right.
So he must have so that's like, that means you have a grandchild.
Because Stuart says he recommends like Constantine, right?
Yeah.
A cool comic. Interesting.
Hellblazer, yeah.
Hellblazer.
So I think that's a bit of a goof.
I'm excited for this because Constantine just came out on 4K, so I'm gonna watch it again. I just got it in the mail the other day, like 2 days ago. So
didn't Keanu Reeves say that he might like reprise his role?
He did.
That'd be great.
Right? He did good in it. I can't say
just
I'm
more,
a fan
more
of
Keanu, just all around.
I wasn't a fan of everything he's done, but when he's good, he's good. For what that's worth. So, wow, that's a really good point. She does have... That is a little bit of goof. And we don't know anything about, like, are her parents divorced? Maybe her dad only has her and her mom has. Maybe they're, like, different parents?
We don't know.
We don't know, but...
So there could be something to explain it. There could be some other circumstances that does explain it, but...
We don't know yet, though. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so Leonard says he doesn't think it's in the cards, and it's like, well, stack the deck, make it happen. I love his phrasing on that.
Yeah.
And he says, now I'm gonna do you a favor, and yells, get the hell out of here. I never want to see your face again. The old reverse psychology trick. And as Leonard's leaving, goes, I'm going to friend you on Facebook, and waves by. So again, I like that their relationship's actually good. Like it's wholesome and makes me happy. Back at the apartment, Sheldon is coming out. He has stayed up all night doing more paperwork. And Leonard says, we broke up again. And this is like top Sheldon. And just, I thought this was a great reaction. He just takes the papers and throws them. And like he's given up. He's been broken on. The papers just go everywhere.
And
And
did you know that the paper that lands on Sheldon's head was a total accident?
I didn't, but it stays there. I noticed it's
Yeah.
like right there.
Yeah, it was a complete accident, and they had to kind of like work some magic because they broke and started laughing and everything, but the paper stayed on. So it was like a lot of magic, like editing magic to make it work and everything like that. But it was a total accident.
Good comment. But yeah, it's like it's just right there.
Yeah, it was so perfect.
And adds to it his frustration, like this isn't working.
Yeah.
Cafeteria. Leonard asks Raj how things went with the telescope, and same old, same old. Leonard says he was waiting for a long time. What happened? He seems really disappointed or not very happy about this. And Sheldon proposes Raj met an alien or found alien life and has been instructed not to talk about it. I love the creativity here. And Howard comes in, and Leonard asks if he got a chance to play with Raj's big telescope. Way to put it. And Raj and Howard just look shocked at each other. And Howard says, I've never touched this telescope. And they basically start telling each other to shut up. And Raj asks why Howard didn't call this morning. Why didn't you call? And that's the
Love
end.
that. Like an old married couple.
Yeah. Why didn't you call me? Even though they don't want to talk about it. Why didn't you call? So that's the end. And we're at the vanity card. You want me to just go into it?
Go for it.
All right. Chuck Lorre Productions, 314. Mornings are the worst. The mind seems undefended, easy prey for both memories and imagination. What happened? What should have happened? What might happen someday? Your fault, my fault, no one's fault. The only way to relieve the torment is to get up, empty the bladder, drink the coffee, read the paper, run the treadmill, perform the animal sacrifice, paint the chicken blood on the groin, and call upon the demonic spirits to bring you back. Nights are bad too. Once again, exhaustion makes the mind vulnerable to obsessing over woulda, shoulda, coulda. The only thing to do is sit alone and eat the chicken which was senselessly murdered in the morning. All right, I wasn't expecting it to go that way, but
Mornings are the worst.
mornings are the worst.
Actually, no, I take that back. I'm definitely a morning person.
I like mornings, but I'm not. I respect and appreciate mornings, but I'm not a morning person, so I don't like them. But every now and then I'll have a morning where I'm like, I can see why people are morning people. I can't be one. I've tried.
I love it so much. Yeah, I've been pretty much up like 4:30 or 5 most days, even like on the weekends, just kind of
Wow.
put on a pot of coffee, kind of take care of some things on like the computer and stuff like that, just kind of like prepare myself for the day, like make sure like the dishes are done and stuff like that, like do my bills and things like.
See,
I
I'm a
love
night
it.
person. I can get distracted and watch TV at night, but also like if I'm working, I can get a lot done. It's quiet. My mind seems a little bit more relaxed, more focused. In the morning, like I start getting anxious. I don't know what's up with that. I'm like, I got stuff to do. In fact, I remember in grade school, I talked to a friend who would play Super Nintendo. Like he'd get up, have breakfast, and play Super Nintendo for like 20, 30 minutes before the bus came. I'm like, how can you do that? Like I'm so stressed on the bus coming that I have to sit there and just like panic. Like it's gonna come. It's gonna come.
The
I don't.
anticipation.
The anticipation, yeah. And he's like, I don't know, I just make it happen. I'm like, probably get a lot of video gaming in if you can make like every 30 minutes work for you, but I don't.
I guess I look at it like cooking a little bit. Like, if you cook a lot, there's something called a mise en place, where
Mhm.
it's basically staging your recipe. And I use the mornings to stage my day.
Mm.
Do my best to set myself up for success for like the day. Like get all hunter stuff ready and everything, get my work stuff ready, just kind of get myself prepared. Like being well caffeinated because once he wakes up, it's like he's a bolt of lightning.
There's gonna be no time
So,
to think. You just
there
go
really
with
isn't.
it.
But yeah, I feel like I've always been more of a morning person, and I feel like what trained me was being a breakfast cook
Mm.
because I had to be up that early, and then you kind of just get used to it, and then it's like, wow, sunrises are so much better than sunsets. Fight
That
me, go
I,
go ahead, fight me.
I actually agree with that. I don't. They seem more calm and peaceful. It's just knowing that my day's ahead of me and all that I have to do. But if like I have a day off or if I'm on vacation, like I really enjoy getting up and watching the sunrise. I remember being a kid and my grandma would watch sunrises with a cup of tea and a bit of cream. And she wasn't even British, but I remember it was like a cup of tea and a bit of cream. Okay. Watching
Hey, like
sunrises.
a nice Earl Grey with
Yep.
like a little dash of sugar and like some cream in it. That's solid.
Now you're talking like my grandma.
Yeah, I got old really fast.
Yeah,
You can't tell because I'm Asian, but I'm actually 80 years old. It's
it's
those
working for
Asian
you.
genes.
God damn. Yeah, so I can see. Just I get stressed out easily, I suppose. I don't- Also, like in terms of like just system, like my stomach is like working stuff out in the morning, and it's kind of I have to have my coffee, or I'm not going to run right the rest of the day. If I miss the
Are you
coffee,
trying to work off the DoorDash that you got last night?
exactly. And at night, like I feel like at night, like my system's just good. It's calm, and it's like okay, I'm going to sleep soon, so I can relax and do some work, and uh, then I fall asleep on my computer. No, that doesn't sometimes.
For me, nights are for like relaxing, and like when I relax, I'm like a computer that's about to shut down.
Hmm.
Once at a certain time, I just shut down. Don't even talk to me. Don't even look at me.
Rob off.
Yeah, I remember when Christine and I first started dating. I didn't realize I was like this until she kind of commented on. I was like, "Did you know that after a certain time, I'm not allowed to talk to you?" I was like, "Oh, I guess that's right," because I just need to like not say anything or listen to anything. I shut down. Like that's why I'm not really much of a nighttime worker. I'm definitely an early morning. Like if I want to be productive, if I want to do extra work or work on a side project, it's like it has to be in the morning.
I think Kelsey's more like that. That she prefers to get up early and get stuff done. In fact, most of the women I've dated have been. My parents too. I'm the odd one out. I'm a freak.
Well, hello, black sheep.
I'm the black sheep. Black like the nights that I love. All right, so that's it for the episode. Any other last thoughts?
um, yeah, it's like you said. I really like Wyatt. It's cool that it's Keith Carradine.
Hmm.
I love that I'm going to see him a little bit more. I did spoil myself a little bit, so I do know how many episodes he's in.
I
So
saw.
we'll
I
kind
couldn't
of,
help but when I looked. Four more episodes. I think it said 5 episodes
yeah.
total.
Oh,
So.
I'm talking about Deadwood.
Oh yeah.
It's like I know how many episodes he in, so I know something goes down.
Well, it's Wild Bill Hickok. I mean, we know that Dead
It's
Man's Hand.
historically, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
historically accurate. So like, yeah, I've been looking more into Calamity Jane and everything like that, so I know like yeah what goes on with her and stuff like that, and
she's
real
cool.
because
I
like
like her
they're
a
real
lot.
historical thing. I'm really liking her character, but then again, it's like historically accurate, so that's who she was.
Yeah. But I do like they don't go into it much. But what what is the actual dead man's hand? Like two aces, two jacks, or something?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look this up really quickly. But
Yeah.
historically, he was known to have an actual hand, and it's now called the dead man's hand. Poker hand of two pairs consisting of black aces and black eights.
Okay.
So two eights and two aces, and
But
like that's known that in like in the show, like you see that, so it's kind of like a giveaway of what's going to happen. But apparently, it's like a real thing, and like I don't even play poker, but I'm like, what's the dead man's hand? But as legend
yeah, I
goes,
do like that this show is supposed to be known for being like more or less historically accurate. Granted, there's like some fictional stories and everything like that, but like
yeah.
the characters were real people.
Mm-hmm. And they go over like outbreaks, like smallpox outbreaks. They at one point they send somebody to Fort Kearney. I'm like, I lived in Kearney. So I like that show. Calamity Jane's great, but I think you're right. Doc is probably my favorite character, and he's he's kind of creepy, but he's a good person.
But he's a good person.
He's a good
Yeah.
person, and you get
Yeah.
into it that like he's been through shit, so he's gonna be kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Well, they all kind of have been, so I don't know. It's just good. I'm curious
Yeah,
what
you
think
don't
of it.
live in that time era without going through some shit.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's funny how like our last minute thoughts ended up back on Deadwood.
Deadwood.
Well, if that's it, thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsencepod@gmail.com. And we will see you next time when we discuss Season 4, Episode 10.
Whoa. Time warp.
Season 4, Episode 10, The Alien Parasite Hypothesis. See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory Watch Along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alice Grohl. Thanks for listening.
Why am I
Podcast.
picturing him naked? Because he's naked. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.